Hi, welcome to the Wide Open Road Arts Roving Conversation series. Today's conversation is with Jaxon Waterhouse. Jaxon showed at Wide Open Road Art in 2017. Frequently working with concrete and found materials, Jaxon explores Australian historical narrative. He's currently undertaking a PhD at the University of Tasmania. So, first one was, tell me about your practice, what drives it materially and conceptually?
My practice is involved with investigating and interrogating the construction and presentation of historical narratives. It stems from my background in history, like as studying history.
Yep.
And anthropology and sociology, and comes from a desire to sort of find out how, or investigate how we decide what we know is true. Especially in terms of history, where it is a thing that is incredibly like subjective and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you have like official historical narratives that sort of sweep aside like all these other ones, and it's sometimes it's just a case of like right place, right time, or like purely coincidental that things become cemented in fact.
And to do with who's in power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just very interested in sort of critiquing that, or finding ways to poke holes in it, or poke fun at it, or like a lot of it's tied to the idea of the museum as like a extension of colonial power, which is something that's been like written about extensively, but the way that certain items are presented to tell a story, or the way that they act to disempower certain narratives. Concrete, I love using concrete.
So what is it about concrete, given that you're looking at historical narratives, how does concrete...
I guess that's the thing, is concrete's like imagined to be this very like immovable, unalterable, sort of solid object, but you can work with it and you can change it and you can make it work for you. There's like, I was thinking about this last night and I was like, there's definitely a weird like link to it in that way.
So history, concrete is kind of representing history, and that it appears to be solid, but
but it's still, and I guess that's the other thing, is you can make concrete whatever shape you want to, as long as like the cast is
and then it's rock solid.
And I like using just like Google image searching things and finding like a particular image, and then finding a way to relate that back to whatever it is that I was looking at, or archival sources, or all those sorts of things that give you that like archive fever that Derrida talked about.
Is there a particular period of history or location or...
Australia, like from invasion to now.
Yeah. Do you think that artists have social responsibilities?
I guess this also kind of ties into what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Do I think artists have social responsibilities? This might sound like a little bit juvenile, but I don't think anyone has any responsibilities, like, except to themselves.
Really?
And like to people that they care about. People make art for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think as your responsibility lies mostly to yourself, to do the things that you want to do and to express whatever it is that you want to express. I guess in terms of like the roles of the modern artist, depending on what sort of art you make, I think it's imperative to being a good artist to present something that makes people stop and think about the wider world and their place within the wider world, or so different interrelations between things.
If a work is making them stop and think about their place within the world, does that not tie into some kind of responsibility?
Well, yeah, I guess it. I think that like if you're aware of having a responsibility, it'll alter somewhat
Yeah.
like what it is that you create.
That's a really good
and
point.
I think
yeah.
that I'd say it's like when you work to a brief.
Yeah.
And
do you think that's a good? Do you like working to a brief, or do you not like working to a brief?
Sometimes it's good because it gives you constraints and stops you from going like completely off the wall. But other times it hems you in, and you know, yeah, I think that's the most important role of the modern artist, is to present something that makes people stop.
Why is that important?
Because if it has like a physical impact on someone, wherein like it actually like physically makes them stop and look at it and go like, oh shit, or like you were talking about with things that you've read that stay with you, like that's how you know you've made something like effective, because it has an impact on someone. How
do you describe your connection to other artists or an art making community?
I lived in Fremantle for like 5 years, which is like hippie suburbs, like the
the
whole 9 yards. Like all the backpackers come there in summer and grow their hair out and start wearing shoes and like busk. And the last maybe 18 months, I was living in Fremantle purely through like a series of coincidences. Met some people that I ended up running a gallery with, and we all shared like a suite of studios in an office building, and worked together on a whole bunch of different projects and that sort of thing. And when I was there, like I definitely felt like shit, like I'm part of this. And like I think that's why it was so hard for me to move, because it was like a very fulfilling, very like I was stoked. I'd get home from work and like have a wash and then go to the studio or go to the gallery.
Sounds
and then
amazing.
But then since I moved here, like I keep in contact with those people and work with them from a distance, but it's very different.
So was it in terms of your art practice, was it beneficial having that community?
Yeah, there was a woman called Ellen Broadhurst who is like brilliant artist. Heart River at the moment, which is like this section of WA that's seceded from the rest of Australia.
Oh.
Yeah, and they have like a king there, and he has like his own posters. Yeah, it's super cooked. It's a couple hours like past.
What's it called? Heart River.
Hutt River.
Oh, Hutt River.
HUTT. Yeah, it's like Hutt River Province, and she's there now, like shooting a documentary on the dude. She was really great. Like we just used to spend all day, all night together, just like painting and drinking passion pop and like just like bouncing things off each other.
Yeah.
And just like it didn't matter how bad the idea was, she would just be like, no, do it. Do it. Like, it'll be fucking great. Don't worry about it. Like, it can't fail. And I think it definitely affected the way that I look at art. And I think that, yeah, those two definitely like affected the way that I approach it, where it's if you have a strong enough theoretical base, no one can fault it.
So you would say that is really important to art making practice, is the solid theoretical base?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think I agree on the whole.
Whether or not you like harness it and you like use it, but I think it's important to be aware of like the context in terms
of
also
like, that's an interesting thing. Like, do you as the artist have to harness it, or is it enough for it to just be there and then other people can come and read it and see it?
I guess that's the thing, is when people come up and read it.
Because that's a funny thing as an artist, isn't it? I think when people come and read all stuff into your art and you're like, oh.
Yeah, like
sure, I meant that. Yeah,
like
it's all about that.
That's the best. Is like when you've done something and you're like, all right, I want to show this somewhere.
Yes.
What theory can I use? Like, what like name can I use? What can I like drop in to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about? And I think it's really hard to have that conversation between practice and theory. Like unless you've got this huge like base of knowledge to work from. And you've got it constantly in mind while you are doing things.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make the two speak.
I think so.
Like symbiotically.
Yeah, I wonder if also that artist community can help with that, maybe, because I think through talking stuff through as you go, maybe
Yeah, for sure.
maybe it helps.
And I guess, yeah, there's always going to be someone that's read something that's like applicable.
Yes.
And they'll go, oh shit, that kind of reminds me of that. Or like, oh, like, have you seen this? Like, this is kind of similar to this work. And they were talking about like doing that. Like, is that kind of what you were leaning towards with it? Other thing, to go back to material and conceptual basis of practice is a lot of it comes from like books that I've read.
Yeah.
So at the moment I'm reading Marcel Mauss's General Theory of Magic.
I don't know, but it sounds good.
Oh, it's like he was like this old sociologist, and like he wrote this book tracing like the history of magic, how we like perceive it through like shamanism and paganism and voodoo and like all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like looking at how that then ties into magicians and like how we perceive like magic. And I mean, I think he put it out like 50 years ago or something like that. Like it's horribly like out of date. And like when you read it, you're like, shit, man, like this is really white. This is really like not that okay. But like I've been sort of planning to do something based on that, where it's like a continuation of that.
Right.
So it's like looking at like the history of magic, but then looking at like how we magic is things that are like inexplainable, and certain things in everyday life now that none of us can explain, that you sort of take for granted. That's magic.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that sounds really interesting. Yeah. I've had that thought about that I would like to just sit in a room, like any room, for a year and like get food brought to me and just try and figure out how everything works. Like why? Because I don't know anything. I don't even know really how a light bulb works.
No, me either. Yeah, and this was one of the things I was talking about, was I was like, shit, like I just don't understand electricity.
No, that's right.
Like I have no idea how it works.
I don't. And I felt a bit dumb for that, so it's good to know that you don't.
No, I'm sure like I learnt it at some point in high school, but
it's pretty unfathomable. Yeah. It's good. So I think that getting your head around just the way, I mean, I guess you could start with your own body even, except you know what the thing is, you actually couldn't, because then you'd get to a point where you're like, oh, and it's magic, like, because you trace it back and back and back, and then it's like, yes, so bang. And
then it's like, like how did I get here?
Yeah.
Magic.
It's great, isn't it?
How does my brain work? Magic.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a good project. So what are your philosophies when it comes to making art?
Part of it is it's never going to be the worst thing that's ever been made, so don't worry about it.
That's good. That takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess then the flip to that is like it's going to be better than other things.
Okay.
So
other
again,
that
it gives you that.
Other things that other people have made.
Or both.
Yeah.
Like, so that sort of helps give you that like confidence to keep going. And then I don't know if it's a philosophy, but it's just like a sort of desire to learn and keep doing, like a drive to, I want to know that, okay, cool, I can use this, I can look at this through the lens of art, like art making or art practice or art theory or whatever. And it'll help me like understand that, or it'll help me figure out like how that works, or like. So
the philosophy would be that art should be a tool for understanding things.
Yeah. That's put a lot better than what I was saying.
No, I knew what you meant. Where do you go, or what do you do for inspiration?
I read.
Yeah.
I just read.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean.
What are your like top 5 books of all time? Just to throw that one.
Oh shit!
Just
of all time. Number 1 is Watership Down.
Oh god, that made me cry.
Hands down, like really? no question. Yeah. Something about.
I wouldn't have picked that.
Something about. Oh no, I like.
Oh gosh.
Ever since I was little,
Wow.
it's something really, really nice about like a group of rabbits just looking for a new home. Like it's like the most like pure like.
Have you had pet rabbits?
Yeah, I did once. Benito.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the current political climate, support for the arts is low. How do you manage to get by as an artist or incorporate art making into your life?
I guess I not like treat it as a hobby,
Okay.
but it's something I do in my spare time. Like I work that horrible job in the falafel restaurant
Yeah.
so that I have money to buy things like paint or wood or.
So you basically do sort of crappy jobs so
Yeah,
that
because-
so that you can support your art making
Yeah,
and your life. Yeah.
because it makes me happy.
And how do you feel about like looking to a future of like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years from now when you're older? Like, how do you feel concern about not having money? Or do you think that there'll be a way to make money through the arts? Or do you think...
Nah, not at all. Like I mean, my HEC's like
Yeah.
50 grand or something, like studying history, which is like the most possibly like less useful than an arts degree, like than
I
like
reckon I
a
could challenge
visual
you on that
arts
one.
degree.
My
Like,
visual arts degree is pretty not very good, not getting me much of income.
but in terms of like the future viability of making art, like long term, as long as it's not something I rely upon, which I think is also like a really good way to approach making art in the first place.
Because there's less pressure on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like saying this won't be the worst thing ever made.
Yeah.
It's also like, and if it is, I've got something else. Do you think, like, the question I had is what do you consider to be good art? But I just feel the need to preempt it by saying, do you think there is such a thing as good art? And if so, what is it?
Good art's anything that gives you like a feeling.
Okay.
Like as long as you can look at it or watch it, read it, whatever. As long as you don't just experience complete ambivalence and indifference to it, like it's good art.
So the next one was, how does good art make you feel? But you're telling me right now it just makes you feel.
Oh, it gives you a little thrill.
Yeah.
Like it gives you a little like.
So do you get a thrill when something's like incredibly bad?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like someone took the time to make that.
Yeah.
Someone's given them a platform to show it,
Mm.
and like someone might have paid money for that. I think a good way to approach art is approach it as a con.
Hmm. So that's an interesting way when you're looking at it in relation to history, because, you know, I guess history is a con too.
Yeah.
So using art to out-con the con.
Yeah.
Create cons on top of cons.
Well, yeah. There's a guy in Perth, like Margaret O'Neill, and he was living in Europe when like the street art thing got really big, and like he was like a grapher and that sort of stuff. Made heaps of money from it, and moved back to Australia. And now he changed his name, everything, gone completely like off the grid, and now he's working as like a contemporary artist. And his entire practice is like, all right, cool. How can I make money from contemporary art?
That's his
And
practice.
it's very like blatant,
that's
very
so
like
interesting.
out in the open. Like, how can I make money from this?
What's he called again?
His first name's Chris, but I can't
That's not
remember.
going to help me find
Yeah,
him.
I can't. I'll message Ellen.
Yeah.
'Cause she'll know.
Tell
but-
me, because that's fascinating.
And he does like, because he's got like a bit of capital behind him, he can afford to do things that are like pretty ridiculous. So like he drove out into the desert and took the wing off a plane that had been crashed
Oh, wow.
and like put it on a trailer, drove it back to Fremantle, and like threw it in the harbour.
Oh.
And he's like, oh no, it's this going to be this big thing about that Malaysian Airlines plane that like went missing.
Yeah.
Like, just what he can get away with, what can he make money from through the lens of, contemporary art or conceptual art.
That's interesting because that's something that we're interested in a lot at the moment. Is the idea, like, is it possible to get by as an artist? So someone doing a project on that would be interesting to me.
I think it's possible to get by as an artist, but it requires concessions on your part in terms of, submitting money, submitting like grant proposals or funding proposals, or taking like a public commission work that you don't really want to do, but it'll give you the money to drive to the desert and find a plane wing like that, like that.
But is there enough of that to support enough people?
No, not at all. Like
No,
the number of people now that classify as like artists or
Yeah, do you think that's true? Do you think there's an increase in artists?
Oh, I mean, everyone in Melbourne's an artist, right?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. Do people say that? I don't live here anymore. I don't really know. Do people go, if you're at a party and you meet people, is it common for people to go, hi, I'm an artist?
I think it's more just like shit I see on the internet.
Yeah,
Because I don't really have friends there.
Okay. If you could do a collaboration, like, so the last one was your dream collaboration, if history, geography and money were no thing, like whatever, you could have whatever you wanted, is there anyone in particular that you would collaborate with?
I was thinking about this when I was writing down, and the only thing I could think of would be to go back and do something like in the pyramids or something like that, like whether it was like you added in your own bunch of hieroglyphics that didn't make any sense and you just like threw them in there to mess with everyone, or
that would mess for a long time.
Yeah,
there'd be so much work around it trying to figure out what it meant.
Yeah. Or like it'd have to be something like that, and I guess it comes back to that idea of art as the con, where it's like something completely meaningless, but people would spend years of their life trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that makes me think of an exclamation mark. It just feels like it's all like one big exclamation mark.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I reckon that will end there because that's my last question.